when it comes to the Newcastle stuff and they're praising him for signings, like, I mean, if I was a technical director at Newcastle, I think anyone here could say, "Oh, Isak's a good striker." Like, that's not a smart thing. He's saying, "Oh, they brought in Anthony Gordon for Everton." What? Had no one heard of Anthony Gordon before? Like, that's the stuff that he's getting praised for, signing players that people know about. That I'd do that if I was playing Football Manager or FIFA when I was a kid.
In Ciso. Oh, it's fabulous! A strike to get you up off your seats.
Right, I'm not going to do De Zerbi to Barca first, because I think the other stuff's more interesting. Stuff that's happening higher up in the club with Sam Jewell. I'm guessing it's Paul Jewell's son, isn't it? They look a little bit similar. Chelsea have come in for, is it a second or a third time to try and get him as their head of recruitment, which is hilarious because they already took our first one. And reportedly now Dan Ashworth heading to Man United after his gardening leave, which is insane. He's getting more gardening leave and more money. That bloke's done so well.
Yeah, 20 million, isn't it?
Yeah, 20 million fee to take him to United, I think. But so Dan Ashworth then wants to bring Sam Jewell to Man United as well. So
that is, can I just say, 20 million for a non-playing staff? I get it. He's a very high up. He's very influential. I get it. And he's important to a football club. He is good at his job. However, 20 million. Come on, bro. That is insane. But fair enough.
Ryan,
fair enough.
Is he good at his job?
No, this is what I was going to say.
Just riding the wave at this point.
This is what I was going to say.
Like, he's honestly. Go on. You say what you're going to say.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was going to come to you because I know that you think it's a myth, and what I agree with saying it's a myth is like the stuff you've done at Brighton. I think is incredible. The scouts you've done, changing everything to do with our scouting. Again, I'll stick to football. Jamie Carragher saying Dan Ashworth came in and said, we don't have scouts in all these different areas, which we do, but we have scouts for specific positions. They're not just there in Brazil looking for Brazilians. They're there looking for specific positions, and that's what they do. They look around the world at all these different positions.
Also, just really quickly, on that scouting thing though, isn't it Star Lizard that is the actual brains behind the operation rather than, let's say, a Dan Ashworth? Like, isn't the algorithm?
I think he set up the net. Yeah, but he set up the network of actual scouts. I'm pretty sure we went from having 3 or 4 to like 300. I think that is the quotes that I've seen. So yes,
Star Lizard's like
the database.
It's like basically a really, really cool version of FBref, if you want to put it that way. So like a website where it's just going to analyze players to a different level that you couldn't even understand, and I wouldn't be able to understand. That's what am I taking as of it. Obviously, I've never seen the thing, but that's what I would say.
All right. So then, Dan Ashworth. So what he's done at Brighton is very good, and like I don't think we would be somewhat where we are now, but he's done incredible stuff for our club, getting to us where we are now. Obviously, with the help of Paul Barber, Tony Bloom, and other people. But when it comes to the Newcastle stuff and they're praising him for signings, like, I mean, if I was a technical director at Newcastle, I think anyone here could say, "Oh, Isak's a good striker." Like, that's not a smart thing. He's saying, "Oh, they brought in Anthony Gordon for Everton." What? Had no one heard of Anthony Gordon before? Like, that's the stuff that he's getting praised for, signing players that people know about. That I'd do that if I was playing Football Manager or FIFA when I was a kid. I would literally just search high potential strikers that are playing well. Oh, Isak's popped up. What a signing! They spent so much money on him. No wonder why they got him with all the money they've got. What he done at Brighton is something good, but what he done at Newcastle and leaving straight away, like he should be ashamed that he left for that bigger project.
He seems like he's got zero loyalty. Zero loyalty, which is not a good trait to have in someone who wants at such a high position, surely.
But I do get why you would want to go. I feel like, the Newcastle project has plateaued. Maybe that's because of him. Maybe that's because of their financial fair play issues that they're now having to deal with. But the Man United project is obviously insane compared to Newcastle. Like, Newcastle was a great project compared to Brighton in terms of financials, but this Man United project is obviously a whole nother level, which is, I can see why he would want to go and take it.
But everyone wants to do project now, and it's really funny. It's really stupid as well, because everyone wants to do project. Everyone asks them to do a project, and to be fair to them, they've stuck with it. Chelsea want to do project. They can't even get past 3 games without complaining. So I just think it's really quite funny, really, how short people's memories of project is. I mean, Newcastle, you can say project backed by hundreds of billions of pounds. So is it really, I don't know, what would you call that, a project or project financial takeover? Like, it's mental. And then you've got like as you say, you've gone for really not obvious signings because they're different, but they're experienced. He's gone with experience. They're players that, anyway, irrelevant. To say that that's stagnated in a year is probably wrong, I'd say. Just because. How can that be? How can they stagnate a project in a year? These people have to remember that the Brighton project's been since Tony Bloom took over in 2009. Even Arsenal on the top end level of project have had to wait 5 years for Arteta's football starts actually working. 3 years for it to actually start working. I don't know. I just feel like if Newcastle are then going to go from being a relegation candidate to Champions League to staying Champions League to competing top 4 every year, surely that's got to give them more than 5 years. Got to be 5 years, surely, at least, before they can start consistently saying that, regardless of the amount of money they're going to spend. Because Chelsea, on the other hand, call themselves a project, but they're actually just buying a bunch of players and hoping for the best, copying them everyone else. And Manchester United, fair enough. Dan Ashworth, I don't know if I think he's good at his job or if now he's just riding the wave of, I'm just going to make a ton of money here. And if it goes wrong, I'll just jump ship again. I'll just go back to Newcastle. They'll pay me 20 million. You know what I mean? I think that's just what it is. It just becomes a bit like that manager merry-go-round of Jose Mourinho, of Mauricio Pochettino. You know what I mean? The big names just keep going round and round in circles for a few years, make as much money as they can, fail somewhere else and make more money again. I don't know if that's what I'm taking Dan Ashworth as now. I don't think there's as much credibility as he had in 2021 when he was at Brighton, if I'm honest.
No, I agree. Maz, do you have anything on Ashworth?
No, I think you guys have covered it pretty comprehensively. Yeah, no. My big thing is just his loyalty is in question now. I think he's pretty much not staying at clubs enough to then, I think the question marks you both have brought up, can you show your credibility? Can you show your expertise in such a small amount of time? And I think that's my question mark over him is, has he shown it enough? Because he's only been at Newcastle for what? A season and a half, if that. And then, he was at Brighton for 2, I want to say, 2, 3. It's just are you consistently showing your ability at a club without jumping ship every time? And maybe you could argue he's actually just taking promotions every time. He's actually he starts with Brighton, goes to Newcastle and then gets promoted to Man United. You could argue that as well. Yeah. He's taking steps up in his career. But at the same time, I would question, do you have the heart for it and do you have the loyalty to stick around this project, and actually see it through from start to finish? But aside from that, I mean, look, fair play to the guy. He's clearly chasing the bag, and if he can do it, why not, eh?
Mate, he's the one laughing. We're the one with mug written on our forehead here because he's made how much money in the last 3 years. At the end of the day, whether he's good at his job or not, he's made a lot of cash. And that's all that matters in this world, unfortunately.
Well. And then with Sam Jewell, let's say Sam Jewell does go to Chelsea or Man United, is the recruitment completely different? Well, obviously our recruitment is completely different. There's no really questioning that compared to Man United's. They go for the big players, the ready-made players, whereas we are signing these youngsters that we can give 13 football to become superstars. Whereas, let's say Sam Jewell was at Man United last year and he's got Barco in. I mean, to be fair, actually, Barco probably would start for Man United in this one. Maybe that's a bad example, but let's go further back in the past where we've signed someone. They're not going to put... I mean, the reason why they didn't sign Caicedo, they're not going to put him straight in the first team. He'll go on loan somewhere and probably not be anywhere at the level that he is now because he hasn't had the right first team football at the right level. So I don't really understand what Sam Jewell can do at Man United if obviously his recruitment and his abilities are in a kind of completely different market. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, again, I think it goes back to our model. I think you touched on it, Ben. Like, if we have got this scouting system with 300 scouts and essentially this big database that we've got patent to and we've got license to and no other club has, I don't think it really matters who is overseeing it or who is actually in charge. Of course, you have to be very good at your job to be able to read the analysis and, data analysis, all that kind of stuff and all the elements that come with scouting and being a scout. I'm not saying his role is redundant, but is it as important as we think? That's what my question would be is Sam Jewell actually such a key role that if you take him out of it, we're screwed? I personally don't think we will be, but I could be wrong.
I'll pin it on Paul Winstanley in terms of Sam Jewell is far clear of Paul Winstanley, as in he's a lot better than. And that's probably the one thing I think would, even in the short term, hit, because I don't think we've got a ready-made replacement for Sam Jewell as we did with Paul Winstanley for him getting instantly promoted. Don't think he's got an assistant, if I'm right in saying. So there's not someone there, so we'd probably have to go external. But even still, I agree with you, Ben, on the terms of Wonder Kids thing at big clubs. You can't just... It's just... I think of it as being so obvious. I don't know how Chelsea don't see it, for example, because obviously signing these teenagers into a big club instantly to start playing straight away isn't going to work. I mean, surely that's obvious that you're going to be a mid-table team. And if you're going to then start doing that with Manchester United, you think about the reputation of that football club, like the absolute weight on your shoulders from day one, from the moment you walk in that door for over a few £1 million, you're a part of that. So then you've got to carry that, and there's no hiding in that. So that's, I think, what people don't realise is actually you're not just going there as a commodity. You're going there as the star. You are going to be the star, and you're going to be the star now. Because if you aren't the star now, these fans aren't going to give you time for it. You're either going to be the star now or you're going. That's it. And that's what these big club fans have been conditioned into thinking for the past 50 years. So if they think that's going to change because they're here on a project, ain't going to happen. So I think that people don't quite get that bit. And the same with Chelsea. I think the similar thing will happen with United. I'd like to think they'll do something a bit differently based on, it seems like they're a bit smarter than them. But we'll see. They're probably not, if we're being honest. At the end of the day, Brighton have done it for a long time, and we haven't got the reputation to worry about. What if Brighton finish in the mid-table? Everyone's going to be shocked. No, but that's where we belong, right? So that's where it is, that the expectation, the reputation is lower. So there's less pressure on these players. Barker can come in when he wants. We've got Estupinian. He's not a rush. No, go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, Chelsea have done this before. Like if let's say Sam Jewell does go to Man United, so I've only got 2 minutes. Sam Jewell does go to Man United, and then he does sign all these wonder kids that don't play, so they go out on loan. We've seen Chelsea do that before. Do you remember all the memes that would be like they would have 40 players out on loan? And they had Viticeana, they sent like half of their squad there. The airport, even like further back from Marco Van Ginkel sort of era, they had Gael Gakuta. They signed all these youngsters, like Charlie Musonda was meant to be the next big thing, but they go out on loan every single season and never really reach their potential because of it. It doesn't work. I think hopefully smart players will still pick Brighton over Man United, like Caicedo did.
Final thing before we wrap up, I think the grass isn't always greener, and I think a lot of these young players, like us, if you look at our team, right, and of course there's going to be so much interest. I'm sure when Encisa comes back, there's going to be lots of interest in him. Facundo obviously will get a lot of eyes now that he's playing so well. Simona Dingra, all these great players that we've got, and of course they're going to get interest. But just look at the ones that have failed, have gone and failed. I'm not saying Caicedo will be a failure, but he's failing right now. You look at there's a whole list, my brain's gone blank, but there's a whole list of young players that have gone and it hasn't worked out. Even like the Cucureas and of course there has been successes, Trossard, Ben White at Arsenal, they've gone to a good team. But most of the time, I say 8 out of 10 probably fail, as in it's not as what they expect. And I think that comes down to the expectation and the pressures on them, like Ryan said, from these bigger clubs where they won't get with us. So just maybe stay for a couple of more years, at least till you developed as a player, and then maybe look to go on. But don't go in your prime career development years and lose those valuable playing time that you would have got at Brighton and not at a big club.
And that development thing, exactly, just to finish on your point, that development thing is exactly what they can't give you. They can't give you that development. There's so many variables to signing a young player. You've got to worry about the language barrier. You've got to worry about them settling, their age group, who they're going to mix with, when they're going to mix with them, how they're going to get into the team, the pathway into that first team. Maybe they need some under-23s football first. Don't post them all over your social media straight away. I mean, all these little things are going to add up into shaping this young player into being the player that he could be. He's going to need 6 months' time till he's ready. He can go on loan. He can't go on loan. These are things that Chelsea don't actually think about. These are things that probably Manchester United may not think about. So these are things that I think the big clubs can't offer that Brighton can, and that will always be the sell. And it helps we've got a magic man like De Zerbi to help them as a bit of a father figure.
And get yourself a good agent. Bash, done.
Yeah. Don't use Caicedo as agent.
Yeah. Bank a bunch of money and leave.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's an interesting final part of the podcast. I quite enjoy talking about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that was good.
I don't think it really gets spoken about a lot.